Welcome to the University of Michigan Dentistry Podcast Series, promoting oral health care worldwide.
Here is the crown and bridge model, and it's been completely adjusted. And you can see that we can check that by closing it in centric relation, and as we move to centric occlusion, the incisal pin will not come off the incisal table. And this has been adjusted to a long centric. You should have your adjustment completed before the impression procedure. If you have not had a chance to complete that adjustment, you will have to take your impression at this point and adjust on the working cast to allow for the complete adjustment of the case. Notice that the free gingival margin is above the margin or the preparation margin of the crown on the mesial and the distal. The free gingival margin is also above the prepared margin on the bicuspid. It will be impossible to take an impression of the model in that condition. So we are going to have to modify the gingival shroud to allow us room to take this impression. Simply take your prepared teeth out, and with an acrylic burr mounted in your handpiece, you can modify this gingival shroud to give room for the impression material. Don't actually cut directly on top of the shroud. You want to actually just open the crevice a little wider so the impression material will be able to get down there. You'll also have to open some of the mesial soft tissue on the bicuspid preparation. Be careful you don't hit the adjacent tooth when you do that. You can see that we have cut away the shroud. We have not lowered it considerably, but we have put a V-shaped trench next to the tooth. Now, as we place the tooth back into the socket, you can see the kind of room we have created in order to take the impression, but at the same time we have also created a very loose tooth. And this is going to give us a little bit of a problem as we try to take the impression, because the tooth is going to want to be moving around on us. So in order to correct that, we will simply take a little bit of green sheet wax and take a very small piece, fold a double layer up, and put it on the flat side of the molar. That little flat that's down here. Do not get it underneath the base of the root. Simply place it over that flat. And now we will simply put the tooth back into the model, press it down firmly, and position it, and it will stay there. We'll do the same thing to this bicuspid. The tray has been coated with Reprosil adhesive, and you will notice that it is a thin coat and that we have come out beyond the periphery of the tray so that any material squeezing out here will be picked up by the adhesive. This is very important because if you don't do this as you're working with the impression later on, you can start to strip that out of the tray, and it would result in an inaccurate model. What I would suggest to all of you is that you work in pairs. And you can see we have set out the mixing pads with the light-bodied here for the operator, and the heavy body will be over here for the assistant. A light-bodied syringe will be used to place the light-bodied material. It's very important that you use a tip that has been very slightly modified. You can see here that the tip of the syringe has been just barely cut off, just to remove the constriction. This is a very small orifice. This is important as you try to get that tip into the crevice and into small retentive grooves. If it's very large, you will trap a lot of air and miss the impression. The material you are using is quite fluid, and it will inject easily if you work quickly enough. The working time is quite short. You want to dispense the light-bodied material about 1.5 inches of both the base and the catalyst. Do not move your tube too fast as you go along, because the lengths that you get, or the volume that you get, is dependent on how hard you squeeze the tube and how fast you move the orifice along. In order to mix this material, pick up all base or catalyst, it doesn't really make any difference. Stir it into the other. Get it initially mixed. Wipe off the excess off your spatula, and then spatulate the material. Once you have that spatulated, no streaks in it, simply pick up your syringe, rub it through the material to fill the syringe, and place your plunger. Now, as you're injecting the model, start in the most difficult area to get, that would be the distal of the molar. Come all the way around, slowly injecting around the circumference of the tooth. Come up each retentive groove and fill it. Do the same thing now with the bicuspid. Come through the box and through the isthmus. Be sure you inject over the hooding on the buccal. Now come back to the molar, finish injecting around there. Just coil it right up on the occlusal, get your edentulous area. Be sure that you inject the occlusal surfaces of the uninvolved teeth on the other side of the arch. By the time you're finished with this, your partner should have completed the mixing the tray. Invert the tray on the model and put it in place. The following is to demonstrate the loading of the heavy-bodied material into the tray. Remember, this is being done while the operator is mixing and loading the syringe material. The heavy-body material, when you dispense it, you will need to dispense about 6 inches of base and catalyst. Do not move the tube too fast as you express the material, or you will not have enough. 6 inches should just fill the tray. The heavy-bodied material is a little more difficult to mix than the light-bodied, and it will take a little bit more effort. I would suggest, as you're working in your partner pairs, that you let the operator start mixing the light-bodied and get the syringe filled before you actually start mixing the tray material. It is very similar in its handling properties. You pick up all of the base or catalyst, as it may be, and stir it into the other portion of the mix. When the streaks start to get a little bit small, wipe the tip of your spatula off, and now you can come back and spatulate the rest of the material. It's very important that you get all the streaks out. And there we have it mixed. Now pick the material up on your spatula and put it into the tray from the lingual flange. There, we've rubbed it right in, and now bring it right around, all the way around the tray. Do not work from both ends of the tray. Always work only from one end, or you can trap air into the mix and you won't notice it until you have a distorted die. If you're a little bit shy on material, note what side the impression is being taken on and put the majority of the material on that side. But you can see that the estimation was quite good in this case. We have a full tray. Once the impression material is set, you're ready to remove the tray. And the way you would like to do this is as much as possible straight along the axis of the preparation. You pop it up in the area of the preparation, and then on the other side. Once you have that loose, then you can work the material off of the model as much as possible straight occlusally. Your prepared teeth may come out, it's no problem. And as you can see, we have the impression of the rest of the arch, and we have quite a long fin down the root surface of the prepared tooth, which we will have to remove before plating. It should not cause any distortion here because the tooth was allowed to remove from the socket as we took the impression. It is important that you take an instrument such as a number 7 wax spatula and lightly probe the rubber-based material in the area of the preparations, the edentulous ridge, and all teeth that you are critical to your mounting procedure. If you've had an air bubble of any size in the impression material, it will be a very, very soft, spongy area. If that air bubble were to be in the area of a prepared tooth, it would contract during plating and result in a distorted die. One thing that we will have to concern ourselves with here on this technique case that would not be a problem with a patient is you can notice that the margin is way up here, our prepared margin, and we have all of this excess material that came down the root surface. That will be a difficult thing to handle in making of the model, so we're going to remove some of that flash with a pair of scissors, and we will move it back to a point where it's, 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters beyond our prepared margin.
You've been listening to a presentation from the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, which is dedicated to supporting open learning and open educational resources. This recording is licensed under the Creative Commons. It may be reused and redistributed for nonprofit use. Please attribute materials to the University of Michigan School of Dentistry and redistribute under this same license. For more information on how this and other University of Michigan School of Dentistry recordings may be used, visit www.dent.umich.edu/license.